Let's get into a totally cool review of Totally Killer. Get bent, you total loser. Ha! 80s!
Well, sometimes that is better.
Before we get into a review of Totally Killer, though, let's talk a little bit about the film. Totally Killer is a 2023 horror comedy that's being described as 35 years after the shocking murders of 3 teens, an infamous killer returns on Halloween night to claim a 4th victim. When 17-year-old Jamie comes face to face with the masked maniac, she accidentally time travels back to 1987. Forced to navigate the unfamiliar culture, Jamie teams up with her teenage mother to take down the psycho once and for all. Getting into a non-spoiler review of Totally Killer, this is essentially an R-rated Disney Channel original movie. Now, in my experience, a lot of these movies that are like made for TV and specifically kids will take some kind of familiar concept, like if it's Back to the Future with this one, or literally the same plot of The Final Girls, dumb it down and make it as sweet as possible by over-stylizing it. My 14-year-old self might enjoy this film, but at 25 years old, I don't know. Listen, I hate to immediately come out the gate hating this movie, I just wish there was more to it. One of the big things that kind of bugged me the entire movie is there's this 80s commentary, I guess, if you want to call it that. Like, there's an instance where Jamie is running around this 80s high school and she asks for information on another character and saying things like, I know I'm not allowed to ask for that, and then the secretary just gives it right to her and she's like, this is crazy, I can't believe they would allow that. It's not even that I'm disagreeing with a lot of what's coming out of Jamie's mouth, but there's so much confliction in the commentary of this movie. So much of this film is like glorifying the style of the 80s, whilst a lot of the things coming out of Jamie's mouth are criticizing it. I feel like one of the writers of this movie loves the 80s and one of them absolutely hates it, but maybe I'm mistaken. The Max Headroom mask is a really interesting choice, and I can't really talk more about that until we get to the spoiler section. It's because of who the killer is. I really don't have too much to say about this movie because in a lot of ways it is just The Final Girls, which is another movie from 2015 that kind of shares the exact same premise as this movie, and personally I feel like they did it way better. It's not necessarily a good thing when I'm watching your movie the entire time and I'm just thinking to myself, I wish I was just watching this other film instead. I did really enjoy Olivia Holt and Liana Liberado's performance in this, though. I thought they were maybe my favorite parts of the whole film. Liana Liberato just plays an excellent mean girl, and Olivia Holt's character kind of starts off as a mean girl, but then, has a little bit of a transition. It was cool. It was well written. I enjoyed it. Overall, though, I think Totally Killer is a fun time. I think personally the worst thing a movie can be is boring, and Totally Killer is anything but that. So it's not bad, but it's just clearly copying other things that already exist, and that's kind of where my issues with it lie. Besides those criticisms, though, I think the two biggest things that Totally Killer gets wrong is that its main character is just nowhere near as compelling as like a Sidney Prescott or a Tree Gelbman from Happy Death Day or Scream respectively, and the humor especially does not land for me in this one where the humor in Happy Death Day does. Say what you want about Happy Death Day to you, it totally loses the horror angle, but you can't really call Totally Killer a horror movie. The digital stabs are so bad in this, oh my god. The comedy was the driving force of what was entertaining about this film, and a lot of that just didn't land for me, unfortunately. It's a lot of generic time travel humor where it's like, oh, I can't say that this person's my mom so that she doesn't know I'm her secret daughter. Jamie keeps saying things along the lines of, yeah, mom, I mean, mamacita. It's so overplayed humor, it's just a little cringe in my opinion. Would I recommend you watching this film? I would recommend that you go watch The Final Girls from 2015. Really good movie. But if you're a big fan of Randall Park like I am, he's also in this movie, so that's pretty cool. All right, we're getting into spoilers for Totally Killer, so if you totally don't want any spoilers, don't go totally further. Like I said in my non-spoiler review, Totally Killer is essentially an R-rated Disney Channel original movie. It takes a familiar concept, dumbs it down, and then sweetens the pot so much to the point that it's over-stylized. A lot of people really like this approach to making movies though, so maybe that's not something that bothers you, but personally it's just not for me. Now, while yes, this does take the concept of The Final Girls or maybe even something similar to Happy Death Day, I would say that it's very different in the approach of humor and horror that those films have. The reason I really like Happy Death Day or The Final Girls or Scream, for instance, is because there is terror there. There is some scary shit going on, but there's also some really goofy and fun stuff happening too. This movie doesn't quite strike that balance and misses on both of those ends in my opinion. Our killer doesn't really get any crazy kills, and a lot of the stabs are digital and frankly embarrassing. There's one sequence where the killer stabs this news reporter in the head, and clearly the reporter guy just goes like, ugh, and then falls over, and it's one of the worst effects I've seen in a modern horror movie. I really like the Max Headroom mask though, because it's a bit of a clue as to who the killer is, and even though I feel like the killer reveal isn't anything super special, it's still a little fun detail, and I appreciate that. I'm not really crazy about Kiernan Shipka as Jamie. I don't even know if it's the writing or the performance, but a lot of this character boils down to typical and generic time travel humor. This and her rocky relationship with her mother are kind of the driving forces of this character, and I feel like both of them are a little undercooked. The humor of this movie boils boils down to, oh, we're in the 80s right now, so we have to make fun of everything that happened in the 80s that's different from now. And generic time travel jokes, where Jamie is constantly calling teenager Pam mom, even though she doesn't know that she's her daughter. It's just not funny to me. I mean, I've seen this joke a million times before. Like, she says, oh yeah, that's right, mom, mamacita. It's kind of cringe to watch, and it's really hard for me to root for a character who is constantly trying to make this bit work that's just simply not working. I think her relationship with Pam is written really well, but once again, just very Disney Channel original movie to me. It's not bad, it's just a little cheesy. The other side of the humor, like I was saying, is very like 80s commentary, but a lot of it is super conflicted in my opinion. Like, I can't tell if the writers of this love the 80s or absolutely hate the 80s. You also see that confliction in the tone of this too, which I guess is the point, but I don't really know if that's the point or not. Like, yes, you are bouncing between modern day and 1987 this entire film, but I don't know if that really works in the same way with the humor of this movie, which is actively criticizing the 80s, but also utilizing its style to gloss over its movie. I feel like maybe one of the writers of this film absolutely loved the 80s and the other hated it. Some positives with this movie though is, even though I'm not crazy about the lead character, I do like a lot of the side characters. Like, Randall Park is excellent as the cop. He has a lot of really funny moments in this. When doesn't he? He is literally excellent in everything and no one talks about him. Julie Bowen and Olivia Holt are casted so perfectly in this. They look so much like each other, and they also both give great performances. I think Olivia Holt's teenage Pam is my favorite character in this whole movie. She goes on this arc from mean girl to having a softer side, and you know, it's a little generic, but it's done well. You don't gotta reinvent the wheel to impress old Jake, as long as you roll it well. But overall, you can tell that this is a straight to VOD movie. I really don't have too much to say about this one. It's a fun time. You'll enjoy it if you like Happy Death Day or The Final Girls, but it's not better than those films. Shockingly, this movie has a really high Rotten Tomatoes score though, so a lot of people seem to really dig this one. I guess I'm in the minority here. I give Totally Killer a 4 out of 10. It's solid, it's fun, but it's not anything I would watch again. If I want to put on a comedy slasher, I'll put on Happy Death Day or Freaky. I feel like those execute their humor and gore and kills just way better than this film did. When you're making a horror comedy, you have to have both the horror and the comedy be strong and balanced, and this movie doesn't necessarily do that for me. I will admit though, the blowjob joke was pretty funny. What did you guys think about Totally Killer though? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching this brand new review of Totally Killer. Don't forget to like this review and subscribe for more horror content in the future. Please consider supporting me on Patreon as well by clicking on the link in the description below, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.